Hey everyone, Steven here, and today I'm looking at the K1 wireless keyboard and Mercury X Pro wireless gaming mouse from Gravastar. Now I've seen these products pop up in my feed for this company for some time now, and their unique aesthetics have always intrigued me, so now it's time to see if they can deliver on the performance side. Starting with the K1 wireless keyboard, this is a 75% keyboard with 79 keys, mechanical switches, and an 8000 milliamp battery that can last up to 40 hours with the default lighting settings or up to 470 hours with the lights off. This features Bluetooth 5.0, or you can use the 2.4 gigahertz USB dongle, with both offering about 10 meters of connection distance. This is compatible with Mac or Windows, and there's a switch near the USB port that allows you to toggle between the two. This has a Type-C to Type-A charging cable that also connects this to your PC for a wired connection, and this weighs 1.06 kilograms or 2.3 pounds. Inside of the box, you'll get the keyboard, USB-A to C cable, switch puller, cleaning brush, mechanical switch sample, user manual, and the USB 2.4 gigahertz receiver that is stored on the back of the keyboard. For the samples here, you get one Speedy Mint switch, one Panda switch, one Crystal Black switch, and one Crystal White switch. For the Mercury K1 keyboard that I have, this has the pink cherry linear switches. There's one other variation to this that you can find that has a different type of switch with it, but the other three seem to just have the pink cherry linear switch here. And with this switch, it has 40 gram force, 1.5 millimeter pre-travel, and then it has 3.5 millimeter travel. These can be swapped out for 3 and 5 pin switches though if you don't want to use these. The keycaps are PBT with the letters and numbers on the front and not the top, giving you a more clean blank look to them that I really like. The letter and numbers are illuminated when you're using this and the lighting pops up, but if you turn that lighting off, you literally won't be able to see this at all, and it will keep that blank aesthetic the whole time. For the construction of this, this has an aluminum alloy frame to it, and then we have the PC plate, the pour-on sandwich foam, IXPE foam, PET transparent enhanced acoustic foam, you have the PCB, pour-on button foam, and then the silicone foam. So you have your various foam layers here, which of course are there to reduce noise. That paired with what type of switch do you have? If you have an extra clicky switch, that's obviously going to make more noise compared to a linear switch or a silent switch. Here we have the linear switch paired with the types of foam layers that they have with this. Keeping that all in mind now, let's go ahead and get into a sound test. Next, I have some things with the layout that I want to highlight. Here you have a blank mirror plate on the bottom right hand side. It's just above the right arrow key. Now this basically has two functions. One is it will change color and it'll stay illuminated when you're using various RGB color modes. The other one is if you're going to turn on caps lock, then you're going to see that this will illuminate and turn white to let you know that caps lock is on. Next, you have the multimedia control button, which is going to be on the upper right hand side. With this, you can push this up or down. That's just going to raise or lower the volume, or you can actually click this in, and then that is essentially just pause or play for your media. Around the base of the framing here, you have a really cool webbing type look to this. It actually reminds me of like a xenomorph hive, and then you have RGB lighting illuminating underneath that, which looks really, really cool. On the top of the keyboard, you're going to have the USB-C input for charging this, and then on the sides you have the switches. On one of them, it's going to change this between the wireless receiver or Bluetooth, and on the other switch, it's going to change this between Windows and Mac. On the back side, you have the storage slot for the USB receiver, and then you have your kickstands, which have two different sizes to them. Shifting over now to the software, on the left-hand side, these are the 5 main tabs that you can choose from. At the very top, we have the device settings. Here you have device info, language, startup, exit, tap, sleep, debounce, and reset. You can pause and look over any of this at any point if you want to, just to see what it is. Moving to the keyboard itself, though, this is where you have key assignment. So the device is the keyboard. You have the option for 4 different profiles. You can import, export, rename, delete, and then add. This will save to the device. Any of the keys on the keyboard you can choose and then reassign those. At the top we have default, function 1, function 2, and tap. On the bottom you have keyboard, mouse, multimedia, macro, commands, and then key combination. So this is where you can adjust a lot of different things with this keyboard. Now here you will see it disconnects for a second. That happens not super frequently, but it can happen here or there. In terms of any of the settings here for the keyboard, anything that you want on the keyboard to change to something else, you can reassign it. And then macros, you can create macros, commands, and multimedia, kind of the same thing, but you can assign that for especially that multimedia button up in the corner. And then key combinations, if you wanted to record those, you can download it, which is going to be the down arrow to the keyboard, or you can actually just reset it. Then we have the lighting tab. Here you can see all the different lighting effects. Some are reactive, meaning there's nothing going on until you hit a key on the keyboard, and then some are just going to be a more constant effect that you would see. Downloading this can cause this to almost lock up sometimes, where it doesn't do it really quick. So sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, which is kind of odd. I think that definitely is one of the issues that I have seen with the software, is it can either freeze up, it can kick you out, like it doesn't recognize that the keyboard is there, or it just will overall freeze. You got to exit and then reboot it. Now I will let this run a little bit longer until it shows the error code. I did cut this a little bit short though. Here, there's some issues with the software that I've noticed. One, you can't scale this. If you notice in the upper right hand corner, you can't actually do a full window. You can't even scale the app itself. It is just stuck at this particular size. Had some issues with the freezing here. And then I also had some when booting up the PC where the keyboard would be really laggy initially, and then it would work after about a minute or two, would be fine again. That's only on the one PC. I haven't tested this across a bunch of different PCs, so it may just be my PC, but I would want people to be mindful of that. Here, setting error, device busy or wireless interference, which may be true for my particular PC. This doesn't happen all the time, but it happens, I'd probably say 30% of the time, which isn't something I want to see. Going through all of these, if it's just blank, that means it is a reactive RGB setting. In terms of the RGB colors and everything, they really pop on the keyboard. They look really good. They're giving you a ton of options. I think they definitely nail down the aesthetics with the overall keyboard design and the lighting with this as well. You still get a lot of customization in the software. It just isn't as user-friendly as I would like. And then we have these various effects, which are going to be reactive to sound. This is where you can see a scaling problem with the UI because you can't blow this up to a full window or scale anything. You can see the ... And on some of these, it will even then have to list out the full name for this for you because it can't fit within the app itself. Again, more of a scaling issue that they're dealing with all of this. But you're still getting the high level of customization over this, gain factor, smoothness, the color choice, and you actually get to choose from the color wheel there. You're not locked in, or you could even do the color values. And then last here we have the macro edit panel. You can import, export, copy, rename, delete, add, and then you can go in and just record whatever macro you want and add it to this for any game that you may want to use it in or program. So that's going to wrap it up for the software. I will circle back around to this here in a little bit. Now let's go ahead and shift over to the wireless mouse. The Mercury X Pro has a magnesium alloy hollow skeleton, so the mouse only weighs 49 grams, and on the back end you have the RGB lighting. I've never been one to use a lighter mouse because I do prefer the feel of a heavier one, but this does feel amazing in my hand. This uses the PAW 3950 sensor with up to 32,000 dpi. This features an 8,000 Hz polling rate, but it's not using the normal USB 2.4 GHz dongle that you will find with most wireless mouse. Instead, this is using their 8K wireless dongle that's a little receiver with RGB lighting. It kind of looks like the dongle extensions that you get with most wireless mice, but here it's the only way that you can connect this to your PC wirelessly and get the 8,000 Hz polling rate. You can also choose to connect this via Bluetooth, which this has a Bluetooth version 5.1. The battery is a 400 milliamp battery that can power the mouse up to 110 hours depending on the use case and the lighting. This has 5 programmable buttons, and this does have onboard memory. Inside of the box, you will get the mouse, 8K wireless receiver, Type-C charging cable, 2 non-slip pads, 1 sheet of Teflon sheet pads, the user manual, and a cleaning cloth. This comes with a 12-month warranty, and for the color options, this comes in the Galaxy Black that I have here, and then you have the Interstellar Silver, and then there's the special edition Battle Worn Yellow version. Next, let's do a sound test for all of the buttons. Shifting over now to the Mercury mouse software. Starting at the Gravastar website, I just want to highlight the fact that you could either use this without downloading the actual software. You can use a web-based version of it, or you can download the software. This will take you to Dropbox. I'm not quite sure why they do it this way, but this is how you download either software, is going through Dropbox. You do not have to sign in. You can just download this only, but that's how they're essentially hosting it, not through the website. Now, on the website page to download this software, they do have some questions on the side. These are most likely pretty frequent questions, because one of them is this safe to download? Yes, the download link goes to a Google Drive. If you encounter any download issues, email right there for help. Shifting over to the full-blown software though, here is the opening page. You click the mouse and then it brings you to the home tab here. Once everything is linked up, you have the buttons. The main ones you're not going to be able to adjust. So your left and right mouse buttons cannot be changed, but your other ones can. And you have macro, media key, DPI switch, DPI lock, scroll left/right, scroll up/down. You have disable, combo key, fire key, polling rate switch, forward, back, middle button, and then of course you have the right and left key again there. Now with this is configuration 1. You can save up to 4, I believe, with this. And then we have the restore, import, and export for any of the layouts that you may choose. Towards the upper right hand corner, you have the battery life. We have the debounce time that can go from the 0 to 15 milliseconds. Notice again that you cannot scale this software. This is set with this layout. So you can't put it into a full window, and you can't actually drag and scale this at all. It is stuck at this size here. After this, we have the DPI stages here. You have 6 that you can essentially leave as your presets, and then you have the report rate, the polling rate down there at the bottom. I am running this at the 8,000 Hertz. Here you can scale this all the way up to the 32,000, which is extremely fast, right? Or any small movement, it's doing a lot with that. Here though, by default, 800, 1200, 1600, 2400, 3200, and 6400. But once you click on that, you can adjust it to whatever you want it to be. Looking at the polling rate, we have 125, 250, 500, 1000, 2000, 4000 and then the 8000 that I'm using. So for any of the gameplay footage, I am using the 8000 when I'm doing that. Underneath this, we have the sensor settings, peak performance. Here you can choose between the 30 seconds all the way up to 30 minutes. As far as I know, this is kind of like overclocking the mouse, so you do get just a more responsive mouse for this period of time. The lift off distance, 0.7 millimeter, 1 millimeter, or 2 millimeter with this. And then you have the mode select. You can't use this unless you drop this down to 1000 hertz. So you're gonna have a low power mode or a high power mode with this. On the right hand side, you have ripple control, angle snapping, and then the motion sync. Now for the motion sync, this is just a screen grab from their website. I'm not gonna go over all the details. I do recommend reading this because there's more than just this. I will have a link for that in the description, but here it says motion sync is a feature that synchronizes your computer's USB polling rate with the sensor readings from your mouse. And then it says this gets technical, and then they go over everything in regards to what this means for you as the gamer. Next, we have the macros tab here where you can record your own macros. They do give you plenty of options when it comes to creating your own macros right here. This isn't something I typically do, but all of the options are available to me if I wanted to actually make any of my own macros. After this, we have the RGB lighting. Here you have off, rainbow moving, single color breathing, rainbow fixed, neon, rainbow flicker. Any of these that you choose, you then have the adjustments beyond that, brightness level, speed, and then I have the lights off when moving turned on. So if the mouse is moving, lights turn off. The second you stop, they will come back on. And then time until lights turn off. After not moving, you can set this to just various times with that. And then last, we have the systems tab here. Here you can find various things like run on system boot, advanced settings, device information, and then language and things like that. So now that I've covered the specs and software for both of these, let's get into what I like with this. There's some overlap. So instead of doing this kind of separate, I'll just talk about these, but I will reference which one I'm talking about specifically. Now, for both of these, it's something that I talked about at the beginning of the video. The aesthetics here are really cool. And I think that's one of the main things that Gravastar has across the board with all of their products is just a very cool aesthetic. And there is a big draw towards that because it is very unique. They have their own style. And specifically with these two products, I just really like the overall look. Now with the keyboard, I like the keycaps. They have a nice feel to them, and I like the fact that the text is on the front and not the top. So if this isn't illuminated, you have that very clean look to the keyboard. And I like the gradient that this has as well. So you're going from like that light gray down through darker gray all the way to black. It just has a really cool look and feel to it. And then for the Mercury X Pro mouse, I like the hollow design with this. I mentioned this earlier where I usually don't like a lighter mouse. I really like this thing. This may actually convince me to go over towards a lighter mouse. Just the feel with this thing is amazing when I'm gaming. And that brings us to performance because both of these do perform when gaming very, very well. And that's just out of the box. You can adjust things in the software and kind of create macros and all these different things if you want to. But just out of the box, if you didn't want to mess with the software, you still would have a really good gaming experience with both of these products. I'm not a competitive FPS player, so with the mouse specifically, I think the high polling rate might kind of be lost on me. I usually game on a mouse that has 1000 hertz polling rate, and it feels good. And this to me feels very comparable to that. But again, I'm not playing these highly competitive FPS games where that difference between the 1000 and the 8000 really does matter, and that person is going to tell a major difference between these two. For me, it feels good, it plays good, but it feels to me very similar to 1000 hertz. I'm just not fine-tuned enough with my skills to really notice a difference here, but I like the fact that they have that for those players that do want that competitive edge. For the keyboard, the switches here feel very good. And Gravastar does give you the little sample pack with this for the different switches, but they don't actually offer those on their website. So it seems like a little bit of a missed opportunity here where they could offer those and just have it all underneath their brand and earn money potentially with that. Now, the good news is you can swap out these switches. You have the option for the 3 or the 5 pin here, so you're not stuck with these. You can always change these down the road, which is awesome. But again, I do think this is a missed opportunity for Gravastar here. And last, I really like the RGB lighting with both of these devices and the various lighting effects and adjustments that you can make in the software. So now that I've covered what I like, let's get into what I don't like. This one I think is a big one, because to download the software for the mouse and keyboard, you don't get it directly from the official website. Instead, it's going to kick you over to Dropbox so you can download it through Dropbox, and you're just downloading this file. When I actually went to go do this initially, it made me pause for a second because this isn't the most secure way to do this. It also doesn't look quite as professional as when you have it linked through the actual website and you're hosting it. I didn't encounter any problems when I did this, but I think a lot of people, it's going to basically be the same thing. They're going to pause. They'll be like, am I downloading a virus or anything? I don't think that's going to be the case, but it should be worth noting that downloading executable files from third-party sources, even when provided by the manufacturer, it carries more risk than downloading it from an official site. I'd really love to see them host the software directly on their domain with proper versioning and verification in the future. This is something that they can do. I just don't really like the way they're handling the software download right now. And then last, I mentioned this as I was covering the software, the UI for the apps is not scalable. I think that's really odd. The fact that, one, you can't scale it and you can't blow it up to a full window. And so with this, it doesn't feel very streamlined. Making that adjustment here, allowing it to scale, would make this feel more streamlined. And I do think that they have a good aesthetic with their software, because it is definitely more in line with their overall aesthetics with these products. But it just needs to be scalable so that it doesn't crowd text in certain instances, and just overall is easier to use. Now that's going to be it for the things that I don't like. Shifting over now to the gray area, these are things you may or may not care about. And here was also an issue of, I don't know if this has to do with my PC specifically, or if this is potentially an issue other people might have. And this one, to start, is actually to do with the keyboard, because when I boot up my PC, the keyboard has an issue for 1 to 2 minutes every single time I boot up my PC. With this, it's just a large amount of input lag. Outside of that 2-minute period, though, it just goes away, and then I don't have that issue again, which is how I was able to game with this with no issues at all, and it works very, very well. I've tried this plugged in. It definitely works more consistently with that plugged in without any input lag, but I'm using an ITX build with this, and I've had issues before, more specific to the Xbox wireless adapter, where for whatever reason with the motherboard, it just gets hotter, and when it does, whatever you have plugged into it that is some type of wireless adapter may not work as well. But the thing with that is, that's what I've been playing for a while. This is just initially when I'm booting up the PC, and again, it's only like 1, maybe 2 minutes, and then it all evens out, and then I have no issues at all. I do have some dropped signal issues with the software. I showed that as I was going over the software. That's pretty rare, but it also feeds into the fact that I think the software just needs to be more streamlined. It needs to be updated. It needs to be worked on a little bit more. So it may have to do with the wireless receiver, but I'm not 100% sure. And I don't know that this is going to happen with everybody. It may just be more to do either with my PC or specifically my wireless dongle is having an issue. And then last, for the gray area, the 8000 hertz polling rate dongle isn't a normal dongle. So with that, you have that extension cable, and then it's this object that will sit on your desk. I mentioned that it's kind of akin to the extension adapters that you find with other wireless mouse, where you can put the dongle essentially closer, or the receiver closer to the mouse so that it has a better connection. And that makes sense here because obviously we have a very high polling rate with this. But if you don't want that, your only other option is to connect this via Bluetooth, which may not have the same level of performance, obviously, compared to the 8000 hertz polling rate. So if you don't want that object there, there's just really no other way to do this. You could put it underneath your desk, maybe, or I mean, essentially just try to hide it. But I don't know if you're putting a bunch of stuff in the way, how is the connection going to be when you're gaming? And are you still sustaining the 8000 hertz polling rate when you're doing that? So in conclusion, I think Gravastar has their aesthetics on point when it comes to the Mercury K1 wireless keyboard and then the Mercury X Pro mouse. The performance here out of the box is really good. There are some caveats to that, especially when it comes to the keyboard, where I've had some issues with this maintaining a good connection within the first 1 to 2 minutes of booting up my PC, but then after that, it being okay. The mouse hasn't had any issues in regards to that. I think the bigger thing here and a hurdle for Gravastar is going to be downloading their software and having to go through Dropbox in order to get that, and then really the scaling issue when it comes to the software and just the overall usability of it. I think it could be better. The good news is that is something that they completely can do. They can update the software, they can make it scalable, they can make it a little bit more user friendly, and then they can actually host the download for this software, and I really hope that they do here in the near future. So that is going to be it for this one. I will have links for these in the description if you want to pick them up. If you have any questions about these that I may not have answered in this video, let me know in the comment section and I will make sure to answer that for you there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button for me as it helps the channel out. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me, and I'll see you in the next one.